Well, let's get to the latest now on that election with CGTN's Penina Karibe. She's joining us live from Mali's capital, Bamako. Penina, have we seen any reaction to Sunday's poll from the president and the opposition?
Well, Beatrice, there's been no reaction so far from President Boubacar Keita. Early results, of course, pointing that he is in the lead. But, of course, we've had a reaction from the opposition leader, Soumaila Cisse. In fact, we've just come from his press conference and where he's accused the government of voter fraud. He says there's been ballot boxes in areas such as Gao that was stuffed and is not going to accept that. He also talked about government pulling down the public portal that can be used by the public to monitor election results, and he said it is such irregularities that he's very much opposed to. Just take a listen to a little bit of what he had to say.
Nous avions une large avance sur le président sortant.
We are ahead of the outgoing president. The results that have shown that we are in the lead are known by everyone because they have been broadcasted by different radio stations. We will not accept our victory to be stolen. That's why we are calling on all those who can to take the responsibility of guarding it. We noticed the fraud that took place yesterday, especially in Bamako, and that is unacceptable in Bamako and in the rest of the country.
Well, Penina, so we've heard from the government there and the opposition. So just recap for us some of the comments you've heard from election observers on the second voting.
Well, Beatrice, we are right now outside one of the hotels where the ECOWAS Observer Mission is holding a press conference. We just went on air just as that presser was beginning, so we're yet to get comments from them. But what I can tell you is so far we've heard from the EU Observer Mission. Some of the early comments they made about yesterday's process was that it was a smooth process. There were no many hiccups, but of course they talked about the low voter turnout and also some of those incidences that did happen elsewhere. Now, we're yet to hear from ECOWAS, like I mentioned, and it remains to be seen if indeed those comments by the opposition leader, Cisse, will be also mentioned by the Observer Mission, because Cisse did go ahead, Beatrice, in that press conference to say that in some places in the north of Mali, which is from where he's from, Beatrice, and that would be typically his stronghold, that the government has stuffed ballot boxes, that the low voter turnout the numbers of the low voter turnout do not correspond to the numbers that the government has announced, claiming that Keita is in the lead. So we are yet to hear what the ECOWAS will say about that. Of course, the EU Observer Mission didn't really get into that. It was still early days, Beatrice, but now we're keen to hear what the Observer Missions will say and whether indeed that will also be mentioned by the monitors.
Well, Penina, we also know, though, that the government has stepped up security for the runoff election, deploying an extra 6,000 troops on top of the 30,000 already on duty. Has this paid off and ensured peace around the country?
Well, from what we're seeing on the ground, no, I wouldn't say it has paid off, Beatrice. It wouldn't have paid off if indeed we're hearing reports from areas such as Mopti in central Mali that there were some polling stations that didn't get to vote. There were armed bandits who attacked the polling stations, and they even burned some of those materials. We had reports from one of the villages in Timbuktu about one electoral worker who was abducted by unidentified people, and later he was found murdered. So really, that is not what you would call security reinforcement around the country, and that was actually one of the biggest concerns we had from both voters, the electoral monitors as well. They were talking about people really not being able to participate in this democratic process. Now, the government, of course, have been saying it is in control, but really what we've seen is Bamako having a very heavy security presence, but outside of the capital city, Beatrice, it is not as heavy, and that would explain why we've had such incidences. And when you speak to some voters, like what you had in that piece that we just aired, of course, voters saying they knew this wasn't going to happen. We had heard, Beatrice, from as early as a day on the eve of the election, voters telling us that they know that the Electoral Commission was not even able to distribute voting materials in some of those regions, and they knew they weren't going to be able to vote people in those regions. So no, security has still been a big concern, and it remains a big concern, Beatrice, even as the country awaits to hear who the next president will be.
Right, Penina Karibe joining us there from Bamako, the capital.